acolytes of the present towards this sacred ground. Greetings, my dear Nalkins. I have called upon you with this summoning to begin a lesson, a sermon of truth. As I have seen in the current stage of Nalkinism, I feel we are losing our way towards Ion. I know that we wish to gain more power and grow more as Nalkins, but this is not our true path. That is not our true way. That is why we are breaking apart as fellow Nalkins, and how our current Archon allows for us to slowly rot away. I ask you not to speak, but to merely listen. Listen to my voice of reason, and in turn you can decide for yourself on where your faith leads you. Ion is the father of flesh, the father of Nalkinism, the Almighty. He is the first one who allowed us all to be in these positions and to have these gifts of grace in the first place. And in turn it is our duty as Nalkins to carry out his will in a way that honors him as a father, not as a mere source of power. Ion was the spark that allowed us to prosper, to eat, to grow, to nurture, and to love. To no longer be rejected or enslaved, but to truly be ourselves as individuals. Now I ask of you, followers of Vo'lok, do you feel that your path leads to this? Do you feel your faith being corrupted, slipping away? Because it is slipping away. The perverted idea of pushing away our father of flesh is what leads us astray, and in turn causes our faith to waver. I do not ask you to simply change your ideals, no, but to change your inner soul, to strengthen your faith as a Nalkin and embrace our father of flesh. I am here to be a pillar needed to lead our fellow Nalkins to a better tomorrow, to shepherd flesh, to be a teacher, to be a father, to be a friend. I am not looking for you all to bow to me. Instead, I ask of you as a fellow Nalkin to look inside of yourself and see if your faith is true. I simply wish to usher our new generation into the age of truth and to reunite with our father of flesh. Ion did not give himself away like this to see ourselves rot and be led astray. No, he gave us these gifts to make the world a better place. A place where all Nalkins may thrive without the depravity of it all. Will you join me in this path of flesh towards our Father above, to ensure our path remains intact and unshaken from the depravity of power and the sin of greed? I am not guilt-free of this sin either. I know my ways have been slightly changed and corrupted. I have sinned in the face of our father of flesh, Ion, but my will remains intact. I know of the pain to be weak, to be forgotten and alone, to see the world and its depravity claw away at you and leave you to rot away in the deepest and darkest hole. I'm not trying to gain sympathy, no. I'm trying to give you all insight into my life, into my grief, my strife, my pain, my path. I am one who has suffered long ago from the idea of depravity, from the idea of chaos, from the idea of witch hunting the innocent. A long time ago, as a child, I had nothing. Living in a shack on the outskirts of a village, me and my mother were barely scraping by, barely staying alive. She was my world, my everything. She was the one who took care of me and fed me, kept me alive even though we had nothing. She always ensured I had something to eat. She would skip feeding herself just to keep me fed. My mother was my pillar of hope, my rock in the chaos of the world, in the unfairness of it all. And in turn, I was her world. Two souls walking through the chaos of the world and the madness of it as well. But the days carried on. The world continued to spin despite our suffering. And to be honest, I did not mind. Yes, we were poor. Yes, we were barely staying alive. But seeing how strong my mother was during these hard times made me want to keep on going. It gave me hope. It gave me the idea of a better tomorrow. And for a time, that is how I felt. Each day passed by the same as the next, but with the idea of hope. Until one day, my mother was dragged to the village against her will. The authority of the church deemed her a witch, even though it was a lie. My mother refused to stoop down to the levels of giving herself away to the nobles and becoming a slave for them. She was prideful, strong, and unshakable. And so the church made her a target. They made her a witch. They bursted into our hollow shack and dragged her away. From me, from our home, kicking and screaming. As she did, I tried to help as much as I could. As much as I could as a mere child. Trying to get the men in armor off of my mother. Trying to save her from her fate. I knew what was to come. There was no true justice or fairness in this time, in this world. I tried and tried. But I was beaten and kicked away by these men in armor, these so-called knights and protectors of the people. Yet they dragged away an innocent woman to her death. All I could do was continue to chase after her as they dragged her further and further towards the stake, forcing her onto it and tying her down against her own will. And all I could do as a child was cry and plead as the gods held me away from my mother, the one who brought me into this world, the one who gave me life, the one who gave me flesh. I cried out to my mother, and I felt her eyes lock with mine. Her demeanor seemed to have changed. Instead of being scared, instead of crying as before, she seemed stoic, strong, almost at peace with the situation that had been bestowed before her. I swore I heard her say, "Do not worry, my child. My soul will be with you. For I love you as my very world." And as she said this, the stake was set ablaze, embers catching into the wind. The townspeople huddled around, watching her burn, and all I could do was cry and plead, and claw at the guards in my way. I kept trying and trying, until my nails started bleeding and ripping away. My voice faded as I continued my pleas of help. But nobody listened. Nobody cared to see a child's mother be burned away because of the claim that she was a witch. As the embers fell to the ground, the guards finally broke formation. I crawled over towards my mother in a manic state, crying, telling myself none of this is real, that it was just a dream. I clutched her ruined corpse, charred and still burning from what had been done to her. And in these moments of grief, I looked above and saw them, the noble, the ones who did this, the ones who tore my mother away from me and condemned her to death. Simply indifferent, sitting in their lavish little palace, fattening themselves up, taking all the resources of others and crushing the weak beneath their feet. I simply couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand the idea of the world being so unfair, so unjust, so cruel, just because another did not want to become a slave and do their bidding. In these moments of strife, I vowed something to myself. I vowed to not be weak no longer. To avenge my mother, to crush those who step on the weak and toss them aside. And with this I did. I left the village with the bones of my mother, wandering the lands and trying to go stronger, looking for ways to take on an entire village myself, an entire army. Yet, no matter how much I improved my body and strengthened, it felt like I was too weak. Still just that child that was unable to save their own mother from their demise. Until I met a man, someone who showed me a new way, a new path, something greater, a greater form of strength through faith. At first I rejected him and attacked him out of pure anger and rage. You see, I was a grifter man who lived on the outskirts and avoided others because I knew what my emotions could do to another man. They never truly healed from that fateful day. But as I attacked this man, he seemed unfazed, like a pillar. He did not move. Instead, a strange, ethereal energy flowed from him. His cloak a deep red, bells on his waist chiming against the wind. His face covered in a darkened moonlight. And then he whispered, "Stop, my child." I felt my body freeze, like as if I heard the voice of my father telling me to behave when I know I did something wrong. He walked towards me, staring, looking, with a deep orange hue glowing from his eyes. And then he spoke once again. "I feel your anger. I feel your hate, your shame, your love, your fear. Your eyes show this. But I know you are not filled with true malice. I can feel your soul speak to me, You are broken. I can feel you have had great loss in your life, as if you lost a piece of yourself. My heart sank when I heard this man speak, not out of fear, but out of hate and anger, his words tearing open old wounds. I tried my best not to show weakness. I never wanted to be weak again, but I couldn't hold myself any longer. As if against my own will, I felt tears run along the edges of my face. And then he spoke once more. You do not need to speak, my child. You do not need to worry. I know what your heart wants to say. I know what it seeks. And I will guide you, my child. I will guide your path and let you see a new way. Let this hate leave your soul, and let your mind become strengthened with faith into a new tomorrow. And as I heard those words, they truly stuck with me. They resonated within my very soul. The word of a new tomorrow, a better path. I will not say the name of this man out of respect for him, but he taught me the way of iron, the way of flesh. Not to use it for hate and violence, but to use it for peace, for family, for love, and for the strength to protect the weak. And as I say these words, I know you may say I am a deceiver, a liar, a false prophet. But I never claimed to be free of sin, free of straying from the path of the father of flesh. But that is what makes me a true Nulkin, a true follower of Ion. I know that my actions have been wrong. I know what I have done is against the father of flesh, and I atone for it every single day. I wish to spread these words to let your heart feel the path of a new tomorrow. To spread the way of strength, not for violence, but for family, for your mothers, for your fathers, for your children, and your loved ones. Ion is not a door for violence, but for faith and strength to protect the weak.
Time and time again! Now kick your ass and kill them now!
I didn't want to harm these people. My intention was to never harm anyone in the process of me spreading the gospel. You made me do this. You are a tyrant hungry for a power you will never obtain. You yearn for a throne you will never even reach. And your faith is twisted and your path is corrupted.
My path is corrupted? Last time I recalled I was put here for a reason! That's why I'm here! And how dare you disrespect me, your Grand Archon! Remember, Duke, the deal that we made? It would be quite a shame if you were to break it here and now. If you want to act so sophisticated, get your ass back to the center of reality. We will be having a talk. Now!
Apologies, but I must leave, as I must return to the center of reality.